When Willow found me again, I was at my family estate, holding my wife and child, leisurely enjoying afternoon tea. I never expected that the once proud, arrogant, and imperious rich young lady would kneel in the rain for 3 days and nights, crying, begging for my forgiveness. However, I calmly said, when I loved you, I could act like a dog, but once my love for you fades, you're just a dog to me. Chapter 1, The Wedding Scene. Suddenly, Willow pushed me away, turned her head, and looked at the bestman not far off. Makoto stepped out of the crowd and knelt on one knee before Willow, holding a ring in his hand. He said to Willow, "Willow, we once made a vow to step into the holy halls of marriage together, but now there's no chance. So, I want to make up for the regret. Will you let me put the ring on your finger?" With tears in her eyes, Willow pushed me away and ran toward Makoto. She stood in front of Makoto, nodded, and cried out, "Makoto, I'm willing, I'm willing, I'm willing." Then, she extended her hand, letting Makoto put the diamond ring on her finger. They embraced each other, gazing deeply into each other's eyes, as if they were about to kiss at any moment. Makoto looked at me deeply and said, "George, I won't ruin your marriage with Willow, but please, take good care of her." Willow cried out, "Makoto, if there's an afterlife, I'll marry you even if I have to die." I smiled indifferently. "Why wait for the next life? I'll help fulfill your wish." The entire wedding venue fell into a deathly silence. The friends and family of the Wang and Liu families, as well as business associates, were looking at me with complex expressions, some with sympathy, others with schadenfreude. This was indeed a big joke, and I was the biggest fool. My words didn't make Willow leave Makoto's arms. They stayed in each other's embrace, still looking at me. Willow glared at me and said, "George, are you even a man? I'm just making up for past regrets. I'm not refusing to marry you. What are you making such a fuss about?" Makoto also said, "George, as a man, you should be more magnanimous. How could you say something to hurt Willow? Were they turning this on me?" I hadn't expected that, but I didn't want to make things too awkward, so I ignored them and said to the family and guests below, "I've said it clearly already. The wedding is cancelled. And fortunately, Willow and I haven't gotten the marriage certificate yet, or I'd be a divorcee." After that, I intended to leave. Chapter 2. At that moment, a few people suddenly rushed onto the stage. I looked and saw my parents, along with Willow Liu's parents. "George, is this how we raised you? Were you planning to cancel the wedding at the last minute? Where do you expect your father and I to put our faces?" My mother yelled at me angrily. My father also pointed at my nose and said, "Willow is right. She didn't say she wouldn't marry you. What's there to make a fuss about?" I really started to doubt whether they were actually my parents. Ever since I was a child, they never believed I could accomplish anything significant. Even when I had a girlfriend, they always thought I was punching above my weight with Willow. Sure, Willow was beautiful and accomplished in many ways, but I wasn't lacking either. Willow's father, with his usual high and mighty attitude, said, "George, for my daughter to marry you is a blessing to your family. What right do you have to cause a scene?" He then angrily continued, "And besides, Willow and Makoto have known each other since childhood and have always been close. If Makoto hadn't gone abroad, do you think you'd have had a chance? Now that you have the chance to marry Willow, and Willow and Makoto are just making up for past regrets. They haven't done anything really serious. Are you overreacting?" Willow's mother added sarcastically, "Not much skill, but a big temper." I looked at them coldly, and suddenly, I felt like I had no family, but I didn't think it was because I had done something wrong to lose my family. Rather, it was because they didn't deserve to be my family. At this moment, Willow's older brother and sister-in-law also came up to the stage. Martin pointed at me and said, "George, if you make my sister suffer even a little, do you believe I'll kill you? It's really not a big deal. Why are you making such a scene?" "Not a big deal." I looked at him with a half-smile and confirmed again. "Martin, you're saying what just happened wasn't a big deal. Is it a big deal?" Martin asked. "If it were me, I wouldn't care," he shouted. I smiled and nodded, my gaze falling on Martin's wife. "Sophia, Sophia, I'm giving you a chance to marry me. Do you agree?" At that moment, the entire crowd gasped in shock. "What the hell are you talking about?" Martin rushed toward me, about to hit me, but Sophia ran in front of me, tears in her eyes, and said, "George, are you really willing to give me this chance?" Everyone went from shock to disbelief. Then, their expressions turned truly fascinating, because no one expected such a huge spectacle. "You get a divorce, and I'll marry you." I only said those few words. Sophia immediately nodded and said, "Okay, I'll divorce Martin. I want to marry you." Chapter 3. You too. Martin's face turned ashen, and he was about to cry. Willow rushed over and yelled at me, "George, what are you doing? Even if you're mad at me, you don't have to ruin my brother and sister-in-law's relationship." "Right, am I the one ruining it?" "It's Martin who said. If it were him, he wouldn't care." I looked at Willow and said, "You probably don't know, do you? Your good friend and sister-in-law. She was the one who originally pursued me. I clearly rejected her, and that's when she reluctantly chose Martin. Willow's eyes widened in disbelief, and she turned to look at Sophia. Sophia coldly replied, "What are you looking at me for? He's right. I did like him from the start, and as long as he agrees, I'm willing to divorce and marry him at any time." Sophia, he's my man. You're my best friend. You. Sophia interrupted. Enough. Willow, don't you have Makoto? How many times have I covered for you when you went out with him? A few days ago, George had a birthday, and you stood him up. You told George you were going with me for my prenatal checkup, but the truth was Makoto caught a cold, and you went to take care of him, didn't you? If Sophia hadn't said that, I wouldn't have known. I looked at Willow indifferently. Her face was filled with panic, and she dared not look me in the eye. All right, the situation is clear now. I don't think anyone will oppose canceling the wedding anymore, right? I addressed the crowd. Lou's father shouted angrily, You, the wedding can't be cancelled, and you still need to apologize to my son. You ruined my son's relationship. Shut up, you dumb idiot. Can't you understand what I'm saying? I've made it clear already. Sophia got close to Martin only to get closer to me. Your dumb son was just a backup, a flawed substitute for me. I scoffed. Since they didn't want to resolve things peacefully, fine, I would go all out. Wife, tell me this is all a lie. You're just messing with me to make me angry, to make me care more about you, right? Martin suddenly knelt in front of Sophia. Sophia, clearly irritated, pushed him away and said, I'll be honest. Martin, do you know why I never let you touch me after we got married? Because, in my heart, I've always only had George. You're not even worthy to be a flawed substitute. You. Before Martin could finish his sentence, he passed out. Lou's father raised his hand as if to slap me, but Sophia slapped him hard across the face instead. You old pervert who steals underwear. Get lost. Ever since I married your dumb son, my underwear's been disappearing. Do you really think I didn't know who's been stealing it? Lou's father's face turned pale. Lou's mother screamed, You old lecher, I'm going to divorce you. I mimicked their tone. It's not a big deal. Why are you all making such a fuss? Ha 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 ha. A beautiful young woman in the crowd covered her mouth, laughing so loudly it sounded like a goose honking. Laughter spreads, and soon the whole place was laughing. I laughed too, because this was indeed hilarious. It looked like I was the victim here. Of course, I was truly the victim, but I felt fortunate. Otherwise, being cheated on after marriage would be even more disgusting. All right, that's enough. I waved my hand and planned to walk off the stage. At this moment, Willow suddenly grabbed my hand and said, George, you really don't want to marry me? I looked at her. Her eyes were filled with tears, full of reluctance. But was she sick? She didn't cherish me when we were together, and now she was reluctant to let go. There's a saying from the Northeast, remembering to feed the milk only after the child is dead. Do you even deserve it? I shook her off and turned to leave. Willow fell to the ground, and Makoto rushed at me. He blocked my way, pointing at me and saying, George, apologize to Willow and finish the wedding, or I won't let you go. At my wedding, you gave my fiancé a wedding ring and made promises of a future life. I gave you the chance to be together, so logically, you should be discussing marriage with Willow now. I looked at him coldly. I told you, I have no intention of destroying your marriage. I'm just regretful, Makoto shouted. I looked at him for a moment and said, You have regrets, so you think it's okay to humiliate me? Do you think I, George, have no dignity? Will I just let you insult me without fighting back? George, I didn't mean to insult you, but who doesn't have a past? Willow crawled over and hugged my leg, saying, No matter what, when I was with you, I was pure. I've never been touched by any other man. I gave you my most precious thing. Can't you be a little magnanimous? No. I kicked her away and said, You embarrassed me in front of everyone, which shows you don't care about me. Since that's the case, let's break up as soon as possible. You dare hit Willow, I'll kill you. Makoto punched me. I took a step back, dodging his punch, and lifted my knee to hit him in the stomach. The next moment, Makoto fell, clutching his stomach, writhing in pain like a shrimp. Makoto, are you okay? Makoto. Willow crawled over, glaring at me and saying, How could you hit someone? Don't you know Makoto is in poor health? You're so cruel. I walked over, slowly raised my foot, and, right in front of Willow, stepped on Makoto's face, repeatedly grinding it as I said, Willow, you better be sensible. From now on, don't come to me for trouble, or I'll show you what true cruelty is. After that, I raised my hand and slapped Willow hard across the face, knocking her to the ground. This slap is for you not knowing your place, and it's also a warning to you. I turned and walked away. Awesome, George, awesome, the woman who had laughed the loudest just now shouted. I couldn't help but smile wryly, not sure who had such a big heart. Chapter 4. Back at the villa, I immediately had someone pack Willow's things. I was disgusted just looking at them. As I sat on the sofa handling some business, the door of the villa opened. I looked up and saw Willow coming back, and she had brought Makoto with her. I raised an eyebrow. It seemed that they hadn't listened to what I said at the wedding, and Willow's attitude had clearly changed. At the wedding, she seemed terrified of losing me, but now, it was like she had won a battle. George, I'll give you two choices. First, I can pretend like today never happened and we can get married. Second, if you find it hard to get married, then you just hit both me and Makoto, and we've already gone to check for injuries. We can call the police anytime. Willow stood in front of me, looking like she had already won. Makoto also said, George, you're a man. You need to be magnanimous like me. I don't mind being hit by you. And nothing happened between Willow and me. I honestly don't understand why you're jealous. I looked at him for a long while, feeling puzzled. According to logic, he should be very willing for me and Willow to break up, but instead, he was urging me to divorce Willow. Was he into the idea of being cucked? Or was there some other agenda? Perhaps my silence made them think I was scared. Willow said even more confidently, all right, George, I've given you an out. Don't hold on to your pride. Let's go get the marriage certificate and start planning the wedding. But before we do that, I think you should apologize to Makoto. After all, you hit him. Being insulted and still needing to apologize. I couldn't help but laugh at Willow's words, though I was also angry. For her to say such things meant she didn't even see me as a person. Apologize? Huh. I stood up, glanced at Willow, and then walked directly toward Makoto. I waved my hand at the bodyguard, saying, turn off the cameras. One of the bodyguards nodded and immediately started operating his phone. The other ran over and handed me a pair of white gloves. I looked at Makoto and couldn't help but smile, putting on the gloves while saying, I told you, don't trouble me again, or I'll show you what cruelty really looks like. But why didn't you believe me? What do you mean? Makoto took a step back. Willow ran over and blocked my way, saying, George, are you going to hit someone again? Listen carefully. I won't let you hurt Makoto. If I can't hit him, then I'll hit you. I put on the gloves, and with a slap, I struck her. Her face, already swollen, became even worse from the slap. She screamed and collapsed to the ground, staring at me in disbelief. You actually hit me. I walked over to her and lifted my foot, pressing it on her face, pushing it back to the ground. Why did you think I wouldn't hit you? Is it because I've been too good to you, and you think I'm just some simp? Willow, when I loved you, I would have placed you on a pedestal. But when I don't love you anymore, what are you to me? I ground my bare foot into her face, sneering, look at the Makoto you want to protect. What's he doing right now? Willow turned to look and saw Makoto retreating, with no intention of helping her. Makoto, you're not going to help me? Willow asked. Makoto hesitated for a moment before saying, Willow, I'm going out to find someone to help you. Willow didn't respond, clearly not believing him. I had no intention of wasting any more time on this foolish woman. Instead, I walked toward Makoto and said, you think you can leave this villa? What do you want to do? Makoto's voice trembled. I sneered, then waved my hand, causing him to crouch in fear. See, I just waved my hand, and you're so scared that you can't even move. What do you think you can do to fight me? I couldn't be bothered to hit him anymore and instead said to the bodyguard, hit him for 5 minutes. Then set up a scene where he's caught breaking into the house and you guys subdue him. With that, I walked toward the villa's exit. This level of trash wasn't even worth my effort. George, what do you want? Willow yelled at me. I glanced at her and said, let me say this one last time. Willow, we're breaking up. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other. Willow instantly started crying, all her bravado gone, replaced by panic. She shook her head, saying, no, George, we're not breaking up. We're getting married. How can you suddenly want to break up? I won't accept it. But I didn't pay her any attention. If it weren't for the past feelings, I'd make sure she was utterly ruined. Chapter 5. When I was in university, Willow was my first-year classmate. That year, at the welcome party, I sang a song, and suddenly she came on stage, took my hand, leaned her head close, and started singing with me into the microphone. As we sang together, her gaze at me was so intense that I got lost in it, and I fell in love instantly. Everyone thought we should be together, and so, we really did end up together. During our relationship, I gave her all the good things I had, and back then, whenever she looked at me, her eyes were also filled with love. Love. You can see it, even now. When Willow looks at me, her eyes are still full of love. It's just that with Makoto's return, she's no longer the same. Before, Willow never argued with me. She always cared about my feelings. It's not that I think a woman should be completely submissive. If I made a mistake, I would also apologize. But Willow changed too much. She loved me, but she treated me like a simp. But I didn't care. For love, I was willing to be like that. And with Makoto, She never crossed the line. They always maintained a normal relationship, and I never interfered. After all, I also had women around me. Since in this business world, interactions were necessary. But today, when I saw Willow hugging Makoto, I really felt disgusted, and that disgust made me realize that Willow would never be the person I want to spend the rest of my life with, because Makoto can influence her so easily. Even when I told her that Makoto might have other intentions, she never listened to me. If that's the case, there's no point in staying together. I left the villa and went to a tea house on the outskirts. After buying it, I rarely came, because Willow didn't like it, but I loved this place. I leaned back in a chair, continued handling some work matters. A few insignificant problems weren't going to affect my passion for work and career. Would I have any regrets? Yes, after so many years of love, suddenly separating causes withdrawal symptoms. But I've always been someone who knows when to end something, and once I feel it should be over, I don't linger. That night, no one bothered me, so I slept very well. It had been a long time since I slept so well, because when Willow was at home, she always had a bit of a childish temper, always made noise, followed her own rhythm, and woke me up in the middle of the night many times, because she saw what Tule said, that if a man loves you, you should wake him up when he's deeply asleep, and if he agrees to accompany you, then he loves you. If he doesn't love you. I don't remember the exact words, but that was the message. I really wanted to ask, who says that? I thought Willow and I would separate like this, but the next day, when I went to the company, Willow and Makoto prepared a new show for me. In the meeting room, I saw that almost all the board members were there, and there were also many people from the Liu family. When I started my business, I gave the Liu family a chance, gave them a small share so they could enter. Of course, I gave them very few shares. Among the Liu family members present, only Liu's father had shares. The others seemed more like they came to scold me. In the main seat of the meeting room was Willow. Her face was still swollen, and her eyes red. Clearly she had cried a lot, but when she looked at me, there was still anger in her eyes, though that anger was hidden under love, and I could see that. Liu's father, seeing me enter, slammed the table and shouted, "George, do you know why we're here?" I thought, why don't you ask me if I know what lies beyond the universe? I glanced at him and took out a cigar, lit it. Stop talking nonsense. If you have something to say it quickly. Don't interrupt the meeting. I ask you, how long are you going to keep this up? When are you going to marry our daughter Willow? Said Liu's father. We're already over. I'm not going to marry her. Not now. Not in the future. I leaned against the window and said it calmly. Fine. If you don't marry Willow, then the Liu family withdraws. Liu's father tried to threaten me. I nodded. Okay. I don't care. The shares you have are worthless. Aren't you afraid that if the Liu family withdraws, it will affect your company? Liu's father seemed surprised. Martin also said, and don't forget, many of the mid-level employees in the company, we put them there. I can make the company stop with just one word. Makoto looked at me and said, George, I suggest you stop causing trouble. Better marry Willow, or your company will have big problems. George, if you marry Willow, it's because in your past life you accumulated merits. Don't be so ungrateful. And by the way, when your company was just starting, if it weren't for the Liu family's investment, would you have succeeded? You're ungrateful. Now that the company is big, you want to get rid of those who helped you. Are you really human? The Liu family members started insulting me. The board members had strange expressions. Are you all really okay in the head? When I asked you to invest, do you know how long I begged the board members present? The capital was already covered. There were no problems in the supply chain. The Liu family's entry only diluted the interests of the other members. I let them in just to show Willow that I valued her. In short, I was just giving them money. That is, I am the sponsor of the Liu family, and this is how a son talks to his father. I looked at the Liu family. They really seemed like idiots to me. Ha 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 ha. In the crowd, I heard the familiar laugh from yesterday. I looked and saw a woman from the Liu family, with her hair tied up in a bun, wearing a simple white shirt, but she had a stunning beauty. Was she from the Liu family? Anna, stop laughing, Makoto shouted. The beautiful woman frowned and said, my parents accepted the alliance with your family, but I didn't. What right do you have to order me? Oh, was Anna Makoto's fiancée? But Makoto's family isn't that powerful, and they play arranged marriages. Anna Sue, I'm a man. I hope you give me some respect. Makoto gritted his teeth. Anna made a face. You're a fake man. You talked about your power in the Wang group to deceive my parents and get them to accept the alliance, but in reality, you just wanted to use me to gain power. Now I understood. It seems Makoto used my name to impress and deceive people, and from what I saw, Makoto seems quite in love with Anna. That made me think. Also, the surname Su isn't common in S City. I remember in S, there's only one businessman named Su, who owns a chain of restaurants, but that doesn't matter now. I have to solve the problem with the Liu family. I looked at Willow and said, we're already over. We have no relationship. Now, you have two options. Leave with your family or I'll call the guards to kick you out. Willow stood up and, in tears, walked towards me. George, I know I made a mistake. I won't cause any more trouble. I won't see Makoto anymore. Actually yesterday I don't need explanations. I don't want to hear them. It's meaningless now. I interrupted her. Martin approached. George, do you think if I want, I can make those we put in the company resign? At this point, they still wanted to threaten me. They seemed to have no brains. I sighed and said, those we put in the company, the smart ones, have already approached me, because they're smart and know who owns the company. Those without brains are already marginalized. Do you really think a few useless people can cause me trouble? Please, brother, this company isn't as easy as you think. Martin didn't know what to say. He was so stupid he didn't know how to fight. Finally, with a defeated look, he said, then, can I ask you to talk to Sophia so they don't divorce? If you leave now with your family, maybe I'll consider it. I smiled at him. Martin suddenly seemed calm, started shouting and cursing, calling the Liu family to leave. Those who didn't want to leave were kicked out by the guards. Now, only Willow and Makoto remained. Willow, crying, said to me, George, give me one last chance. Listen to me, get out. I slapped her, coldly said, Willow, I tell you, when I loved you, I could act like a dog, but you can't treat me like one. And when you did what you did yesterday at the wedding, my love for you disappeared. Without my love, you're just a bitch to me. Makoto ran towards me and shouted, George, you dare to hit her? Do you think? Shut up. I pointed at him and suddenly laughed. That girl named Anna. I like her. From now on, I'm going to court her. Chapter 6. Makoto's face instantly turned ashen when he heard my words. Willow, even more incredulously, said to me, George, you can't do this. You promised to love me forever. I couldn't be bothered to deal with them and had the security escort them out. However, Anna didn't leave. Instead, she sat down in a chair eating food, and it was Tom's snacks she was munching on. Tom had slightly low blood sugar, so he always carried some snacks with him. Aren't you leaving? I asked. Anna blinked her big, sparkling eyes and said, didn't you say you were going to pursue me? I'm waiting. Come on. I rolled my eyes. Did she take my casual words seriously? Then I had her escorted out by security because the meeting was important, and I couldn't let outsiders overhear. After the board meeting, a project passed, and I finally had some free time. I immediately drove back to the tea house. Not long after I arrived, the bodyguards told me someone had come to apply for the tea farmer position. I was stunned. What tea farmer? This place was called a tea house, but we didn't actually grow tea. It was just the name. The bodyguard grinned and said, hey, it's that lady whose laugh sounds like a goose honking. Let her in. I smiled bitterly. Then this energetic young lady dragged me around, showing me the place, asking constantly if I was really going to pursue her. I said no, just annoying Makoto a little. She didn't like that and said I was using her, claiming she had already posted about me chasing her on Weibo and Douyin. Then showed me the posts. Only then did I realize this girl was a columnist with a huge following. She even mentioned on the short videos that if she was played, she'd call for everyone to cyberbully me. Of course, she was just joking. I was speechless. How could she take a random comment so seriously? But it was easy to get along with her, so I didn't kick her out. Anyway, the tea house was huge, and I figured she could play around. That evening, I received a call at home. My dad said that my mom suddenly collapsed and that I needed to come back immediately. When I arrived at home, the person who came to open the door was Willow, and my mom, full of color, looked nothing like someone who had fainted. I knew Willow had made them lie to get me to come back. George, you're lucky to marry such a good girl like Willow. Don't be ungrateful. My mom pointed at my nose and continued, our family comes from the countryside. Willow's family used to be the boss, and they never looked down on us. That's a kindness. My dad also said, yes, if it weren't for the Liu family, where would you be today? I sighed. I'll say it one last time. Willow and I are over, and the reason my company is what it is today is because of my own efforts, not the Liu family. Can you stop bragging? You're just a university graduate from the countryside. Without the Liu family's help, who are you? After my dad finished, he slapped me. Slap. My face stung, and I looked at them in disbelief. My mom also stretched out her hand and pinched my arm several times. I'm telling you, if you don't marry Willow, I'll die. Sir, madam. Willow quickly intervened. George is my man, and even though you're his parents, you have no right to hurt him. Then my parents immediately bowed and said they were sorry. To be honest, when the Liu family made a fuss at the company, I didn't care. They were so stupid that they weren't even worthy of being my enemies, let alone making me angry. But my parents, who'd rather believe in the Liu family that I had helped lift up, instead of believing in me, really made me furious. George, apologize to Willow right now. My dad pointed at my nose. I'm telling you, if it weren't for Willow, I'd beat you up today. Heh. I let out a cold laugh, my voice turning icy. Listen up, both of you. From now on, I will only give you living expenses. Our relationship ends here. Don't ever think you can use so-called family ties to hurt me. With that, I turned and walked away. My parents were dumbfounded, unable to say anything. I continued, by the way, I'll send someone to take you back to the countryside tomorrow. At that moment, Willow chased after me. She hugged me tightly from behind, holding on with all her strength. George, please don't treat me like this, Willow cried, her voice shaky. I forcibly pried her hands off and said, get off. Chapter 7. Back at the tea house, I still couldn't calm down. My parents have always been the type to pressure and suppress me. When I was younger and did well in school, it embarrassed my uncle's family. My dad even forced me to lower my grades. He said, what's the point of showing off your grades? It's causing trouble between family members. In high school, I taught myself to code and made a lot of money working part-time online. But my cousin from my uncle's family found out, and he claimed that the money was his, and that I had stolen it from him. My parents didn't even give me a chance to explain. They immediately sided with my cousin, beat me up, and even took the money. Even when I started my own company later on, they still thought it was the Willow family who helped me. What's even more ridiculous is that the Liu family never said that, but they just assumed it. What kind of parents are these? I've supported them up until now, and I guess that's my repayment to them, since they let me finish my education. As I was sighing, I heard a commotion. Then, I saw Anna running toward me, covered in mud, with 2 large white geese chasing her. Help, my suitors, Anna shouted. I quickly jumped off the chair by the pool and asked, what's going on? The bodyguard chuckled. The geese are raised by the gardener. She saw them and decided to catch them to make roasted goose. But the geese pushed her into the water. It's been a mess all afternoon. I couldn't help but laugh. It had been so long since I had laughed so freely. In the past, I wouldn't have cared if Willow was dating someone. But to say I didn't care deep down would be a lie. That's probably why my mood had been off. Give me a hand catching the geese, and get the iron pot ready, I said with a smile. After we had a big meal of roasted goose, I was so full I didn't want to move. Anna just lay down on the lounge chair, lifting up her t-shirt and patting her soft, white belly. While patting, she suddenly sat up. What's wrong? I asked casually. Anna grinned. The gatekeeper resisting the poop is about to lose control. I've gotta go. With that, she took off in a flash. I couldn't help but laugh. I thought Willow's mess would finally be out of my life. But that night, countless people arrived outside the tea house. I had no choice but to go see what was happening. There, I saw Willow, my parents, the Liu family, and Makoto, all gathered there. And there were a lot of streamers, each one pointing their phone at us. Friends, take a look. This is George from Wong Group, a scumbag who abandoned his fiancée. One of the streamers shouted, relying on his wealth. He abandoned his fiancée and stole someone else's fiancée. How disgusting, another one added. Such a scumbag deserves to die, they all yelled. The streamers were already attacking me online. Wow, this is so juicy, one of them commented. George, you're being cyberbullied, Anna said, holding the phone up in front of me. I glanced at it and saw that her t-shirt was caught in her safety shorts, exposing more than she realized. I casually helped her pull her shirt free and glanced at the live stream. Sure enough, the comments were all insults directed at me. I decided not to look anymore. Avoiding hate comments is basic common sense. My parents were the first to charge out and start scolding me. George, you ungrateful dog, without the Liu family, you wouldn't be where you are today, my dad yelled, pointing at me. My mom chimed in. Willow is a rich young lady, and she's willing to marry you, a poor boy. What more do you want? The Liu family began their attack too, talking about how they had helped me and all the things they did for me. Finally, Makoto came out, tearfully saying, actually, Willow and I have known each other for a long time. It was George who tricked Willow into sleeping with him. I finally got over her, and now he's stolen my fiancée. Then he pointed at Anna, crying, she's my fiancée. I watched them perform their little drama and sighed, giving a few instructions to the bodyguard. Before long, Anna and I were sitting in the chairs the bodyguards brought over. The projector had been set up, too. I turned to the streamers and said, I originally wanted to spare some face, but since they have no shame, don't blame me for exposing the truth. The projector flicked on and showed footage from the wedding the day before. When people saw my wedding, with the bride hugging Makoto and almost kissing him, they were all stunned. Makoto gasped. How could you have surveillance footage? You thought you destroyed it. I sneered. Before the wedding even ended, my bodyguards had already saved the footage. At that moment, Anna handed me her phone. I took a look, and the comments had completely shifted. Well done. These disgusting people deserve to be exposed. Did they really think we were all fools? I just want to say, for all the people who trashed George earlier, in a way, we've already been fools ourselves. Chapter 8. At this moment, Willow ran out and knelt in front of me once again. She cried as she said to me, "George, yesterday's wedding, it was Makoto who told me that before marriage, you needed a sense of crisis so that you'd treat me better after marriage. That's why I acted that way. Really, I didn't lie to you. I have a video to prove it." She took out her phone, opened it, and played a video. The video showed Willow and Makoto in a cafe. Makoto said, "Willow, I swear I'm not trying to drive a wedge between you two, but as you can see, so many women consider George a catch. If you don't give him a little sense of danger, he might cheat on you so easily." Willow, with a worried expression, replied, "No, I can't live without George. If I lose him, I'll die." Makoto continued, "Then do as I say. I'll propose to you, and you cooperate. Even cry a little, or else it'll feel fake." Willow shook her head and said, "No, I can't let anyone hug me. George will be upset. And marrying George is the happiest thing in my life. I can't cry. I'm too happy to cry." Makoto sighed. "It's just a hug. It won't be a big deal. George won't get jealous. And as for crying, just pinch your own thigh and you'll cry." Willow thought for a long time before finally saying, "All right, but you better behave. Don't get too touchy when hugging me. I don't want George to misunderstand." I watched the video and even checked the timestamp. It was from the day before the wedding. To be honest, I was a bit surprised. Willow lifted her skirt and pointed to her thigh, saying, "George, look, this is where I pinched myself. I really didn't betray you. I was just tricked by Makoto." "So what?" I asked. "Willow, do you think I should forgive you? I've told you many times that Makoto has ulterior motives, but you didn't believe me. Instead, you trusted him. Such a sacred thing like marriage, and you trusted his nonsense. What does that show? It shows that you trust him more than you trust me. So, Willow, I can't forgive you for this. And love, it has a switch. You turned off the switch to my love for you, and that's why the love disappeared." I waved my hand and said, "You should go. We can't go back to how things were." Tonight's live stream stirred up a huge discussion, which also gave my company some exposure, and Willow didn't try to contact me again, while my parents were sent back to their hometown. As for the Liu family, they came to my company a few times, claiming they were going to sell their shares to a rival company. At first, I thought about letting the Liu family go, but selling their shares to a competitor crossed my bottom line. So, I used some methods to obtain information about the Liu family's illegal activities and, without spending a single penny, managed to get the shares back. I had said before, if they kept causing trouble, I would make them understand what cruelty really means. As for Martin, he was dumped by Sophia, and Sophia took a lot of Martin's money, as well as several properties. Sophia even came to find me, saying that we didn't need to get married, that being lovers was fine. I kicked her out, but since I had used her before, I gave her some money. Later, Makoto was arrested for money laundering, fraud, and other crimes. After being arrested, he confessed that he had approached Willow when he returned to the country to trick her. His plan was that after I married Willow, he would find a way to make us divorce, and then he would steal the shares Willow held. The scene at the wedding was his idea, to stir things up so that I would give Willow more shares. I don't know what happened to the world, but here I was, being good to Willow, only to be called a simp, treated as if I were being humiliated and still expected to give more. What kind of ridiculous logic is that? During that time, Willow's attitude toward me wasn't good, but it was actually Makoto's influence. Makoto also misjudged one thing: Willow truly loved me, and so, 3 years passed. Anna and I had been married for 3 years now. It wasn't that I smoothly transitioned, it was just that she was too aggressive. After that night, she got me drunk, then climbed into bed with me. I couldn't resist the temptation. For the next 3 months, she never left the tea house. Later, she got pregnant, so, we quietly got married. Time flew by, and the past was carried away by the wind. I am the owner of an adult store. In one of the promotional videos I posted, a guy tagged his girlfriend, asking her to check it out. He wrote, "Wifey, I love this one, put it on and let me see." But when I clicked on his profile picture, I froze. It was Makoto, the school bully who had tormented me in high school. I would recognize that face even if it turned to dust. I didn't sleep all night, scrolling through all of his videos. Then I clicked on the girlfriend he tagged, and sent her a private message. Chapter 1. Before seeing Makoto again, I'd imagined many times what he might be like now. I had once thought that karma would catch up with him, that he'd live a miserable life, poor and struggling, but no. In the videos he posted, one day he's in a luxury hotel in the Maldives that costs thousands a night. The next day he's in Iceland watching the northern lights, and the day after that, he's driving a sports car on the west coast, speeding under the sunset. In the most recent photo, he's in a black Rolls-Royce, wearing a Vacheron Constantin watch. Smilayag arrogantly at the camera, with no sign of worry on his face. He looks like he's living the high life, but why? I stared at his Smilayag face on my phone screen, and slowly, that smile morphed into the face of the same Makoto I knew back in school, laughing while punching my face over and over. Changing hands when his own grew tired. He would grin and point the camera at my swollen, bleeding face, saying, "Smile, George, you think you're so smart with your studies, always acting all high and mighty. Why aren't you Smilayag now?" He yanked my hair hard, deepening his grin as he mocked me. Smile. Makoto's cruelty towards me started when the girl he liked handed me a love letter on Valentine's Day. I politely told her that we were still students, and it was too early for a relationship. So I intended to return the letter to her, but in a fit of childish temper, she shoved the letter into my pocket and said that if I didn't want it, she'd tear it up, and then she walked away. While I was standing there, unsure what to do with the letter, Makoto barged in. He snatched it from my hand, stared at it for a moment, then suddenly laughed, though that laugh was twisted, sending a chill down my spine. He said, "This girl, I've been chasing her for 3 months and couldn't get her, and now she likes you, huh?" He looked at me with a look that made my skin crawl, saying, "George, you're something else." After that, Makoto started targeting me relentlessly. The most terrifying part of my day was always after school because I never knew when he would ambush me in the restroom with his goons, beating and humiliating me. Those days were filled with fear, nightmares every night, but I couldn't tell anyone. I grew up in a broken family. My parents both remarried, and only my crippled grandmother took me in. She ran a small shop selling braised snacks, waking up early and staying late to support me through school. I was one of the few students in that private school who had been admitted on a full scholarship due to my excellent grades. I couldn't tell the teachers because Makoto had threatened my grandmother, and I knew the school wouldn't lift a finger against someone as powerful as Makoto's father. So, I buried myself in studying, hoping I could escape and leave that place behind. But even that hope didn't come true in the end. The night before the college entrance exam, Makoto locked me in the bathroom again, and this time his minions poured filth all over me and took photos. That night, I was locked in the restroom and didn't know that my photos were already circulating in local chat groups. I also didn't know that Makoto had sent people to show those photos to my grandmother at her shop. She was so worried, but couldn't reach me, and limped to the school to find me. In her hurry, she didn't look both ways while crossing the road and was run over by a truck. She died on the spot. I didn't find out until the next morning when the janitor let me out. I was dizzy and disoriented, collapsing on the ground, my mind blank. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. In one day, I lost the chance to change my life with the college exam, and I lost my grandmother, who had been my only family. The aftermath of that day is mostly a blur. Perhaps my body was in so much pain that my mind protected me from those memories. But I remember hearing my teacher in the hallway saying with regret to someone else, he was really a top student with the potential to go to Tsinghua or Peking University. It's such a shame. Makoto suffered no consequences. He was just called to the principal's office and given a scolding. His father was a well-known local businessman and taxpayer, so the principal didn't dare to offend him. I used the last of my family's money to pay for my grandmother's funeral, and since I couldn't afford to repeat the year, I had to get a job in a factory to support myself. Meanwhile, Makoto went to the US for university and began his glamorous life. I sat on the sofa, the living room lights off, just staring blankly at the pitch-black CEI Liag. In the hardest years, I spent many nights like this, lost in thought. Eventually, things did get better. After earning some money, I took the adult college exams, saved up enough to open a sex shop, and with a bit of luck and the help of several skilled models, the business took off. Before long, I achieved financial freedom. I thought I had forgotten the past, that I was ready to start a new life, but the moment I saw Makoto's face again, I realized I had never truly let go. I hated him. I hated him with every fiber of my being. I sat there until dawn, my stiff fingers finally tapping open the account he tagged. It was an artistic, ancient-style watercolor avatar. There had been no videos posted, but I quickly figured out who she was. Willow, Makoto's fiancée. The Ito family was on the brink of bankruptcy when Makoto went to college, but they managed to stay afloat by looking up with the Liu family through marriage. In other words, Makoto, the rich kid, was living his luxurious life thanks to his fiancée's family background. It was almost ironic. My profile picture was a photo of me, yet Makoto didn't recognize me. He had personally pushed me into hell, and his face haunted me in every nightmare, but he didn't remember me. Instead, he tagged Willow to check out my post. I clicked on Willow's profile and sent her a message. "Are you there? We've got discounts." Chapter 2. 3 days later, I opened Willow's chat box for what felt like the umpteenth time. She still hadn't replied. I wasn't too surprised, though, based on the information I'd gathered about her over the past few days. Willow seemed like a pretty innocent girl. Besides, how many women would reply to messages from a stranger? Makoto's tag was probably just a casual joke. He knew Willow wouldn't be interested. What's surprising is that Willow is the only daughter of the Liu family, the future heir of the Liu Corporation. From the photos and videos I found, she was stunning, beautiful features, and thanks to her celebrity mother, she had the kind of face that could debut as a model on the spot. She was the epitome of a rich, beautiful girl. But rather than enjoying shopping or traveling, her favorite hobby was fishing. I'd seen female streamers who fish, but Willow, she was something else. She'd go to a beach or a pond, set up a fishing rod, and fish for an entire day. It was the first time I'd ever seen anyone like her. It seemed like trying to reach her on Lua wasn't going to work, so I dug deeper into her background. I even went to her workplace to do some investigating. Willow led a simple life. Every day was a routine, 2 points and 1 Lua. On weekends, she would spend a full day fishing. After figuring out her work hours, I followed her in my car, waited for a red light, and then pulled behind her. And then, I crashed right into her car. With a loud thud, her car came to a halt. I straightened my hair, catching a glimpse of her in the rearview mirror. I had hired a 5-figure image designer to craft my look and paired it with a minimalist American-style suit to give off an air of understated luxury. First impressions are everything. People might not fall in love with you because of your appearance, but you definitely don't want to give them a reason to dislike you. I adjusted my expression, put on an apologetic smile, and walked over to her car. I gently knocked on the window. When she opened the door and saw me, her previously furrowed brow gradually relaxed, and the air seemed to soften. She was dressed elegantly. Her white French lantern sleeve blouse highlighted her delicate collarbones, and her high-waisted skirt accentuated her long legs. The pearl tassel earrings made her features even more graceful and captivating. I said, "Sorry, my brakes were a bit faulty. Are you okay?" Willow shook her head, then walked around the car to take a look. She said softly, "It's not serious. Let's go through the insurance process." I nodded. "All right, let's move out of the way so we're not blocking traffic." We waited for the insurance company to arrive and went through the whole process. Then, naturally, I took out my phone, opened the QR code, and handed it to her. "Let's add each other on WeChat. If anything comes up, we can contact each other." My tone was casual, giving her no chance to refuse. Willow paused for a moment, then picked up her phone to scan my code. I lowered my head. "I'm really sorry about today. How about I treat you to a meal sometime?" She shook her head. "No need. The insurance is all sorted. If there's anything, we can just contact each other on WeChat." As I expected, she rejected my offer and got in her car to leave. I watched her car merge into traffic, holding my phone, a small smile creeping onto my lips. My goal for today had been achieved. I hadn't expected to get so close to Willow this quickly, but getting her contact information was already a success. I like the challenge of conquering difficult women. If they fall too easily, it's just not interesting. I found all of Makoto's social media accounts. He really seemed to be head over heels for Willow, pathetic like a simp, constantly tagging her with cheesy love messages. Makoto, I'd like to see how well he does without Willow. If karma doesn't catch up to him, I'll make sure it does. Chapter 3. I spent the whole night studying Willow's social media. She really was a simple girl. Her posts were sparse, and the only time she ever shared anything was when she caught a big fish. I didn't reach out to her directly, but a few days later, I posted a photo on my social media. The dark, still water was rippled by the wind. I was holding a large carp and grinning at the camera. The caption read, "Another day of harvest." I waited a week, but Willow neither liked nor commented on it. That week, she hadn't posted anything either. Clearly, she hadn't caught any fish. The following week, I posted again. This time, it was another big carp. Only this one was even bigger, at least 4 or 5 pounds. The caption said, "Caught a fish." She still didn't reply. The third week, I posted another photo. The caption was, "Fish that can never be caught, never ending." Then I went to sleep. The next morning, I checked my phone. Among the dozens of likes, I finally saw the one I'd been waiting for. Willow commented, "Where is this?" I looked at my phone and smiled. The fish was finally on the hook. Chapter 4. The next time I saw Willow, she was clearly more talkative. She asked, "Is there really that many fish at the spot you mentioned? You're not lying to me, are you?" I glanced at her without making it obvious. She was wearing a white sports tank top and high-waisted outdoor shorts, her long hair casually tied up, swaying gently with the breeze. When she talked about something she was interested in, her eyes widened just a little. Sparklyig. It was a far cry from the cold, aloof look she usually gave in fashion magazines. This time, she seemed more like a 20-something college girl. I nodded. "You'll see when you get there. I've been here many times, and I've never gone home empty-handed." The truth was, I wasn't a fishing enthusiast at all. I didn't even know how to fish. I'd only been intensely studying it recently. All to catch Willow, my catch of the day. This fishing spot was one I discovered after asking around and doing some exploring on my own. When Willow first commented on my social media post, I didn't respond. Then, a day later, I posted another one, and finally replied slowly. On a mountain, a bit hard to find. She replied almost immediately. Can you take me there next time? Thanks. I put my phone down, had dinner, and waited until I figured she was getting impatient. Then replied, sure. Willow and I were fishing a few meters apart, both silently focused on our lures. We didn't talk much unless one of us caught a fish. I could tell when I hooked one. She was eager to come over and take a look, but she would pretend not to care, glancing over nonchalantly instead. From what I knew, Willow was the kind of person who had a cold exterior but was very simple inside. She'd probably grown up with a silver spoon in her mouth, and with her privileged background, she never needed to go out of her way to please anyone. People had always catered to her, and so her world revolved around herself. But that self-centeredness was more a habit than anything else, probably because she didn't have many people to interact with. She was innocent and easy to read, her emotions were always written on her face. When DEA with someone like Willow, you can't be too forward. If you push too hard, she might just fly away like a frightened bird. After taking her to the spot once, I didn't contact her again, but I made sure to learn her schedule. I'd hang around the area, making sure to bump into her at least once a week, but waiting for a fish to bite was boring. So after the third time, Willow started talking to me again. She asked, "How did you find this fishing spot?" I answered, "I've been to most of the nearby fishing spots and didn't find anything interesting. I came here once while hiking and thought it was good, so I decided to give it a try." Turns out, I was right. When the conversation turned to fishing, Willow became a lot more talkative. She showed me a video of her fishing for catfish in the Amazon River, and I was impressed. In return, I showed her pictures of me fishing for tuna on the ocean. Her eyes lit up, but then a hint of regret crossed her face as she said, "I've always wanted to fish for tuna, but work's been so busy that I never had the chance." She looked at me, her eyes wide, and said for the first time, "I didn't expect you to like fishing so much, and you're really good at it." The conversation flowed smoothly from there. We started talking about sports, music, movies, and books. Then, to our surprise, we realized we shared a lot of the same interests. We both liked skiing. Both loved Yukio Mishima's The Sailor Who Fell from Grace with the Sea. Both enjoyed listening to Koji Tamaki. Even when we disagreed on something, we understood each other's preferences. By the time we looked up, we'd been talking for the entire afternoon, and it had already gotten dark. From then on, we often fished together and chatted. We even adopted a little wild cat together, a small orange kitten, just a few months old. Every time we went fishing, it would obediently lie next to us, waiting for a fish. Sometimes, when we didn't catch anything, it would meow anxiously, urging us to hurry up. I named it Big Orange, simply because it looked like a big orange. Every time I went, I'd bring it some treats. Willow seemed a little afraid of it. Every time Big Orange tried to nuzzle her, she'd shy away. She had a bit of a cleanliness obsession, worried about the cat for sticking to her. One evening, as we were saying goodbye, Willow asked me for the first time, "When are you coming next time?" I thought for a moment and said, "Work's been busy recently, so I'm not sure." A trace of disappointment flickered in her eyes, but she nodded lightly and didn't say more. I didn't go the following week, but the week after, I finally showed up. When she saw me, Willow didn't show much on her face, but she quickly moved her chair closer to mine. She said, "Where have you been? Why haven't you been coming to fish?" I walked over and petted Big Orange, who was lying on the ground, stretching and yawning. Its belly was rounder now, and its fur was glossy and smooth. It looked well taken care of. I asked, "Have you been feeding it these past few days?" Willow tilted her chin slightly, a teasing tone in her voice as she said, "You named it, but you've been ignoring it all this time." She quickly became a bit smug, adding, "Of course, I've been taking care of it. I come here every day to give it fish to eat." Big Orange walked over and rubbed against her leg. Willow frowned and said in mock annoyance, "Can you stop sticking so close? Every time, you're covered in fur." But, as if used to it, she gently picked it up and placed it on her lap. Big Orange settled comfortably on her, and her white jacket was soon covered in cat fur. But Willow didn't mind. In fact, she scratched under its chin with an expert hand. I watched this from the side, silently making up my mind. She's a tsundere, isn't she? Beautiful, kind-hearted, and a bit of a tsundere. It'll be easy to handle her. I couldn't help but chuckle to myself, then grabbed my fishing rod. The next moment, I accidentally pricked my hand on the hook. I winced and squeezed my fingers, a drop of blood appearing. Willow immediately put Big Orange down and hurriedly grabbed a band-aid from the box. Her brow furrowed as she walked over. "Why are you so careless?" she said. As I reached out to take the band-aid, she gently spoke. "Hold out your hand." I smiled and said, "It's not a big deal. The cut will be fine in a while." But before I could finish, I looked up and met her gaze. She was pouting, and without realizing it, I found myself swallowing my words. We were too close. Without realizing it, we'd moved much closer than before. The setting sun in the mountains turned a soft orange, gradually fading into blue. The wind was trapped in the valley, carrying damp air, and I could smell a faint lavender scent from Willow's skin, subtle yet pleasant. Whether it was her perfume or body wash, her pupils were lighter than most people's, clear and pure, and at that moment, they reflected nothing but me. The wind blew her hair across my face, and we just stood there, staring at each other, until Big Orange impatiently meowed in the background. We snapped back to reality at the same time and quickly stepped back. She spun around, her back to me, crouching down to rub Big Orange's belly. "Are you hungry? I'll feed you now." I laughed softly, and in the dim light, I saw her cheeks flush. From that day on, it seemed like we had developed some kind of unspoken understanding. When I went fishing, I would ask her to join, and when she went, she'd invite me too. We went out at least twice a week, sometimes in the quiet mountains, sometimes on the vast sea, sometimes at a private fishing ground I rented. But every time, it was just the two of us. Meanwhile, I kept an eye on Makoto's social media. His desperate displays of affection became fewer and fewer, until eventually, he didn't post anything for several days. I watched coldly, then met his girlfriend in the best possible mood during the day. This mutual understanding between Willow and me, where we both knew what was happening but pretended otherwise, had been simmering for 2 months. I felt the time had come. That night, as she held Big Orange, I suddenly asked, "Willow, do you have a boyfriend?" Chapter 5. Makoto posted on social media again, but this time, it wasn't some cheesy love confession aimed at Willow. Instead, it was, "Someone actually dares to hit on my woman. Don't let me find out who you are." I leaned against the window, exhaling a puff of smoke, and smirked. Looks like they had an argument. Makoto and Willow's relationship always seemed to be one-sided, with him doing all the chasing. From Willow's blog back when she was studying abroad to her current social media posts, there wasn't a single one about Makoto. What was already a one-sided relationship now had me as the third wheel, and it was starting to get shaky. Willow didn't answer my question that day, but we both knew what her silence meant. That day, neither of us said anything. We packed up our rods quickly and went home, but I knew Willow was upset. However, I couldn't predict whether things would get better or worse. Maybe she didn't like Makoto, but the Liu and Ito families had been closely looked for many years, and the idea of an arranged marriage wasn't something to take lightly. She might have feelings for me, but how much? Would she be willing to go against her parents' wishes? Sure enough, later that day, Willow sent me a message on WeChat. She wrote, "I won't be fishing anymore. Thank you for keeping me company these past few days." And she meant it. She really stopped showing up. I kept going to various fishing spots, but it was as if she was deliberately avoiding me. She didn't appear again. Big Orange was also gone. I thought about adopting it, but after searching the area thoroughly, I couldn't find it anywhere. The only thing that changed was Willow's profile picture. It was of an orange cat lazily lying on a carpet, yawning. I zoomed in and looked closely. It was Big Orange. I was speechless. Half a month later, I posted a picture on my social media. It was a shot of me and 2 girls holding fish. Both of the girls were tall and curvy, their white tank tops tight and revealing. I had one arm around each of them, smiling brightly. These were models I hired, paying them 2,000 yuan a day. Fishing is all about skill. Simply baiting the hook won't catch you anything. The next day, when I went back to that pond, I felt a chill in the air. I turned around, and Willow was sitting silently beside me, her expression cold as she cast her lure without a word, but she didn't even put any bait on her hook. We sat there in silence for a while until she finally spoke. Her voice was emotionless. "Who were those 2 girls yesterday?" I replied without a thought. "What does that have to do with Miss Liu? Don't you have a boyfriend?" She fell silent. For the next half hour, I was catching fish one after another. While Willow didn't hook a single one, she seemed to have forgotten to put any bait on her lure. Sitting there, sulking, lost in her own thoughts, I stood up to cast again, and the next second, my hook caught her skirt. I was speechless. Willow glared at me, furious. "Are you fishing, or are you fishing for me?" I hurried over to reel it in, trying to unhook the lure, but my hasty movements only caused her skirt to lift slightly, exposing a pale leg. I quickly looked up, our eyes met, and in that instant, she suddenly leaned in and kissed me. It wasn't a romantic scene at all. Around us, there was only the 2 of us, awkward fishermen and the fish swimming below, and the kiss was anything but elegant. Rather than a kiss, it felt like a battle. She wrapped her arms around my neck, rising on her toes, while I pulled her closer by the back of her head, deepening the kiss. I don't know how long it lasted. Only when she started gasping for air and beat my shoulder did I finally release her. I lowered my gaze at her and said, "Willow, I'm not interested in stealing someone else's girlfriend. Her eyes turned crimson, and it took her a while to calm her breath. She nodded, whispering, I know. I don't know how to explain this to you, but I want you to know that I'm not doing this willy-ugly. I'm forced into this by my family. I don't like him. Please give me some time. Okay, I'll break up with him. That night, I opened Makoto's social media again. He hadn't posted anything, but I knew, deep down, he wasn't doing well. Sure enough, later that night, he posted several frantic updates, the last one simply reading, wait for it, I'm not going down without a fight. Chapter 6. Before I received Willow's reply, Makoto showed up first. He must have found my contact information somehow and asked me to meet him at a cafe to talk. When I saw Makoto again, he still had that rich, arrogant air vibe, dressed in a high-end Italian suit, wearing a Patek Philippe watch, and polished Berluti leather shoes. He glared at me with a sharp, menacing look. He scanned me up and down and snarled, So, you're the one trying to make a move on my woman. I pinched the bridge of my nose. He still didn't recognize me, but I wasn't surprised. After that incident, I changed my name to avoid drawing attention, took off my glasses, and over the years, I'd made some money. My appearance had changed quite a bit. I didn't look as shabby as before, so not recognizing me was normal. After all, the victim never forgets the face of the person who wronged them, while the perpetrator likely never paid attention to the victim's face. I took a sip of my tea and smiled. Mr. Ito, right, you can't say it like that. Willow told me you two are just a family business arrangement. She's never looked at you the way you think. Sure enough, this immediately angered him. Makoto's face darkened, and he snapped. Are you looking to die? You're just some loser siluging to my girlfriend. Do you really think she'd want someone like you, a bottom feeder? I kept my smile, staring him straight in the eye, and said, a simp is someone who knows the other person doesn't like them, yet still throws themselves at them like a clown, right? What do you think, Mr. Ito? Makoto's rage exploded. He grabbed a water cup from the table and splashed it over my head. The scalding hot water made me momentarily dazed, and I was reminded of the time he poured hot water on me years ago. People around us turned to look, but Makoto didn't care at all. He grabbed my collar and raised his fist, ready to punch me. I could already imagine the force of that punch. After all, I'd taken plenty of beatings in high school, but this time, I blocked his punch, and in his surprised expression, I landed a punch straight to his face. He was stunned. You dare hit me? It was probably the first time Makoto had ever been hit. He froze for a moment, then his rage flared up again. He swung his fist toward me, but I dodged, lowering my head and landing a vicious uppercut to his chin. The impact was loud, bang, and Makoto held his jaw, grinding his teeth in silence, his face filled with disbelief. I said, what's wrong with hitting you? Still smilayag. I leaned forward, bracing myself on the table. There was a gleam of satisfaction in my eyes as I said, I'm not just hitting you, I'm taking your woman. What are you going to do about it? Makoto was on the brink of insanity. He kicked over the table and tried to punch me again, but before he could move, a female voice cut through the chaos. Makoto, didn't I tell you? This is my decision, and he has nothing to do with it. Why are you causing trouble with him? I turned around to see Willow, her eyes red, biting her lower lip, her entire body trembling with anger. Makoto, still furious, swung his fist in the air and yelled, how does this have nothing to do with him? This scumbag must have brainwashed you. How else could you possibly break off an engagement to me for a loser like him? Willow bit her lip and replied coldly, it's not about how many months we've known each other. Makoto, I don't like you, and I never have. Do you understand? I've been with you this whole time because my parents forced me into it. We both know it's just a business arrangement between our families. Makoto growled, his voice dripping with fury. But I'm serious about you. His face turned red, veins bulging on his forehead, his expression twisted with anger. He was losing his composure, shouting, it's all your fault, you bastard. I'll kill you. He was so used to being dominant that, at this point, even in front of Willow, he couldn't keep up his facade. He threw a punch at me, and this time, I didn't dodge. His fist grazed my cheek, and I staggered back a few steps. Seeing this, Willow pushed Makoto away angrily, shouting, stop it. Makoto, staring at her in disbelief, growled, Willow, how could you treat me like this? But Willow didn't care about Makoto's emotional breakdown. She rushed over to me, holding my arm and checking me up and down. Are you okay? You didn't get hurt, did you? I shook my head, reassuring her as I hugged her and patted her shoulder. I'm fine, I said, then gave Makoto a smirk behind her back, raising an eyebrow. Makoto's teeth were grinding, and he muttered, Willow, the Liu family won't approve of you breaking off the engagement. Willow leaned into me, her voice calm and cold as she looked at Makoto. I'm making the decision for my own life. I don't need anyone's approval. Makoto, I'll say this one last time, this is my choice, and it has nothing to do with him. I liked him first. I'm warning you, if you come after him again, I won't let you off the hook." Makoto's face turned pale. He clenched his fists, glaring at us. Before storming out in a huff, Willow clung to me, crying and apologizing. I comforted her while slipping my phone into my pocket. I'd messaged Willow when Makoto came to find me. I just didn't expect her to show up so quickly. When a woman truly hates someone, she can be ruthless, but I liked it. Chapter 7. The days with Willow were a kind of happiness I hadn't anticipated. Some of the things we supposedly had in common were things I found out from her old blog, but many were things I truly enjoyed. We had similar tastes in many things, though not always identical. Being with her was comfortable and never boring. We went skiing in the Alps, holding each other at the foot of the snowy mountains. We went to Tanzania and rode in a hot air balloon, kissing under the most beautiful sunset. I even came to genuinely enjoy fishing. I took annual leave to go deep-sea fishing for tuna with her. When she caught a fish but couldn't hold onto the rod, I helped her. We fumbled around, foul-lying on each other, watching the fish escape and pounding our thighs, laughing like fools. In the evenings, we held hands and went to the supermarket. I was surprised to find that, despite her refined and delicate image, Willow could cook wonderfully. She said, "My signature Spanish seafood paella. You have to try it." Willow was wearing the cartoon cat-themed loungewear I bought for her, proudly taking off her oven mitts and squatting down to peel shrimp for our big orange cat. She muttered while doing it, "If you don't feed him, he won't eat. You weren't this spoiled when you were wandering around." Big Orange rubbed his tail against her hand, and she couldn't help but laugh lightly. A few strands of hair fell onto her smooth, fair forehead. Her eyes were soft, and the orange light from the lamp bathed both her and the cat. I froze for a moment, struck by the beauty of the scene. That night, after Willow fell asleep, I didn't go to open her computer. Willow had no defenses against me. She was the only daughter of the Liu family, and much of the company's important data was on her computer. I knew her password. For the past few days, I had been digging into the Ito family's information. The Ito and Liu families had been cooperating for years, and I didn't believe that the Liu family had no dirt on the Ito family. Just as I expected, I had found some clues about Ito family's tax evasion and even discovered they were moving illegal assets overseas. However, I hadn't yet found concrete evidence. But today, I hesitated. Willow was really a great person. The Ito and Liu families had been bound together for years, and if I brought down the Ito family, the Liu family would definitely be affected too. I found myself hesitating. I had always believed I was just using Willow, but after spending time with her, I couldn't tell if I truly liked her or not. She was so sincere with me. She even ignored her family's advice and decisively broke off her engagement to Makoto for me. Foul-lying for a girl like her was far too easy. I knew that once I took action against the Ito family, our relationship would never be the same. Willow, so pure and innocent, if she found out I had deceived her, she would probably be heartbroken, hate me for the rest of her life. But should I just sit idly by and watch Makoto live a smooth and comfortable life? Without Willow, he still had the Ito family. He would never suffer. I lay there, staring at the CEI Liag, unable to sleep all night, until the morning light crept in. A ray of sunshine slipped through the thick curtains and into my eyes. I squinted, and Willow stirred beside me, snug Liag into my arms and sweetly saying, "Good morning, hubby." Then she petted Big Orange, who was lying on her head, and said, "Good morning, too." Big Orange stretched and yawned loudly, then lazily stretched his body, his paws splayed out. After a long silence, I asked, "Willow, if you had to say, what's the one thing about us being together that you couldn't accept?" Willow, still not wanting to get up, closed her eyes, her voice hoarse from just waking up. After a long pause, she replied, "The one thing I couldn't accept? It would be if you lied to me, if you betrayed my trust." Chapter 8. When the doorbell rang, I thought it was Willow. I grabbed Big Orange and went to open the door, speaking as I opened it. "Big Orange is being so troublesome today. I think he might be in heat and needs his balls chopped off." But the next second, I froze in place. Standing at the door was Makoto, and he was holding Willow by the shoulder. Willow pushed his hand away and looked directly at me, her eyes cold, no longer the gentle warmth she used to show. A jolt ran through me, and I unconsciously loosened my grip, causing Big Orange to dart out of my hands with a meow. Makoto sneered and said, "George, or should I call you David?" He shook a file in his hand, and I could make out my photo inside. "I knew you looked familiar," he said with a mocking grin. "So, it's you, the useless coward, always pretending to be someone you're not. Even changed your name." He pulled Willow closer, placing his arm around her shoulder as he continued. "See, Willow, I told you he was just using you to get back at me. Only I'm truly sincere with you." Willow fixed her gaze on me. The light outside was fading, and I couldn't make out her expression clearly against the backlight. All I could see were the vague outlines of her figure. She spoke softly. My dad had someone check. My computer has been tampered with. The files in the cabinet have been touched too. You said you liked Yukio Mishima's books, that you liked skiing. Those were things I posted during my university days. I asked the fishing place's owner, and before these past few months, you'd never gone fishing. David. No. George. Tell me, was that a coincidence? In that moment, I knew there was nothing left for me to say. I stared at her for a long time, tugged at my lips, and gave a bitter smile. I thought this day would come when I'd be exposed. I just didn't expect it to be this soon. Willow. It's no coincidence. I got close to you to take revenge on Makoto, but I'm willing to face the consequences. Now that he's figured it out, there's nothing more to say. Makoto laughed. George. Trash is trash. No matter how many years pass, it'll never amount to anything. He walked up to me and slapped my face, saying, You think I'll face retribution? People like you, from the lower class, don't even count as human. You're just wasting air. The fact that you can be a tool to please me means you've served your purpose. You should thank me. You want to take revenge on me? He grinned wickedly. Maybe in your next life. It had only been 2 months, but somehow, my things were already scattered around her home. The summer slippers I bought for Willow, the cozy winter slippers she had ready for us, one white and one gray, placed next to each other, the pink and blue couple mugs, with a heart in the middle that I had once mocked as cheesy. After I took one, the other remained, broken and lonely, the pajamas hanging together, the pillows leaning against each other, the little blanket on the coffee table that we shared. I stood in the living room, suddenly feeling an ache in my chest that I couldn't explain. It was all fake, but somehow, I had gotten caught up in it. I closed my eyes, turned around, and left. As I passed Willow, she suddenly spoke, asking a random question. Does it hurt? I replied coldly. What does it matter if it does? I've been enduring it for years. She lowered her gaze, saying nothing. I smiled bitterly, shook my head, and walked out. Chapter 9. I dragged my luggage aimlessly. I didn't know where I was going. My mind was blank. When water hit my eyes, I looked up in confusion and realized that it had started raining without me noticing. Pedestrians around me began to run. The evening light was dim, and the tail lights of passing cars reflected in the puddles on the ground, creating red ripples. I stood there in the rain, like an isolated island submerged by the tide. I hadn't gotten my revenge, and I had thrown my feelings away in the process. It felt like losing both the lady and the soldiers. Unfortunate events will follow one after another. Just as I was already drenched in the rain, I fell sick. I lay in bed at home, feverish and dazed, too lazy to buy any medicine. I wasn't sure if it was because of the illness, but a sudden wave of self-loathing overwhelmed me. I felt utterly meaningless. I drifted in and out of sleep, when suddenly, my phone rang. I struggled to grab it, and on the other end, someone seemed to be saying something, and I must have replied, but my mind was foggy, and I couldn't remember anything. I don't know how much time passed, but I vaguely heard the sound of a door opening. I tried to open my eyes, but my body felt like it was weighed down by an invisible force, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't move. A warm small hand touched my forehead, and after some rustling sounds, someone propped me up and placed something bitter into my mouth. They whispered softly in my ear, Take the medicine. I frowned as I swallowed, drinking a few sips of hot water. The person gently laid me back down, half asleep. I felt a gaze on me, someone watching me closely. I felt a little hot, so I pushed the blanket off and exposed my arm. My arm was covered with many scars, burns from Makoto's cigarette butts, cuts from knives. There was also a deep knife scar on my wrist. That one I had made myself after my grandmother passed away. After a day and night in the hospital, I still couldn't bring myself to find her. I had been left alone in this cold and cruel world. I had worn long-sleeved shirts all this time while being with Willow. Even my pajamas were long-sleeved. She had never seen the scars on my arms. That gaze lingered on my hands, unmoving. After a long while, someone gently took my hand and rubbed it against her cheek, the fingertip sending a wet sensation through my skin. I instinctively wiped the tears off her face, murmuring softly, Grandma, I'm fine. It doesn't hurt at all. The person trembled slightly, and tears continued to flow. After a long pause, I heard a soft sigh, followed by the warmth of wetness on my face. When I woke up, it was already dark. I had slept the whole day. I touched my forehead. It was cool now. The fever had broken. I glanced at the nightstand beside me. There was a half-full glass of water, now completely cold. A pill for the fever lay beside it, with one missing. The next day, I went home. The house was empty and silent. On the coffee table, there was a thick envelope. I walked over and pulled out the documents inside. Dozens of pages, all filled with evidence of the Ito family's illegal activities over the years. I picked up my phone and opened the chat history with my friend from the previous morning. The message read, You should call Willow and say that when you talk to me. My voice didn't sound right. It seemed like I was sick. My friend's reply was, Okay. Chapter 10. I publicly reported the Ito family for tax evasion, sending the evidence straight to the internet. In addition to that, I also revealed evidence about Makoto's father hiring someone to murder a competitor and about Makoto's older brother drugging and killing a girl with an overdose. These were old events, buried years ago by money and connections. With the victims unable to seek justice, the case sparked a massive uproar online. Within no time, several trending topics exploded with red hot tags, and millions of netizens were discussing the issue. Hundreds of thousands of comments demanded severe punishment for the criminals. Before the investigation could conclude, other competitors of the Ito family started hiring online trolls to spread news of the Ito family's crimes, bribery, stealing trade secrets, and illegal competition, to name a few. Previously, with the Liu family as their backer, no one dared to challenge the Ito family, but now, everyone knew the Liu family had turned against them, and without fear of reprisal, people eagerly piled on, exposing even more of the Ito family's wrongdoings. I then released the story of Makoto's bullying during his high school years, and the internet went wild with rage. Netizens angrily commented, "This entire family is full of evil people, nothing good about them. Justice may be delayed, but it will never be absent. After all the evil they've done, it's time for them to face the consequences. Support for you. I've also been bullied before, and the bully is finally getting their comeuppance. I hope you get your revenge soon." In no time, the Ito family became a target for everyone. Ito's father, mother, and Makoto's older brother were all summoned and detained. Only Makoto managed to escape. The Ito family had transferred some assets overseas years ago. Makoto thought he could escape the country and continue living the lavish life of a rich second-generation heir, enjoying a life of excess. But on his way to the airport, he was chased by a police car. In his panic, he sped up and crashed into a bridge pillar, losing consciousness on impact. After being rescued at the hospital, it was discovered that he had suffered severe spinal injuries, leaving him paralyzed from the neck down. The next time I saw Makoto, he was alone in a rented basement room, unable to pay for his medical bills. He had been kicked out of the hospital. The small room was a relative's last-ditch effort to help, simply dumping him there without care. I bent down and entered the damp basement. It had rained recently, and the black moldy CEI liag was dripping water. A rat scurried across the floor, startled by my footsteps, its long tail trailing behind as it rushed into the dark, foul-smell-liag drain. Makoto lay on a wooden bed. When he saw me, his face twisted in horror. He tried to move, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't. A foul odor emanated from beneath him. I squinted. His body had rotted in places, with feces sticking to his bedsores. A disgusting mess. At first, when I heard Makoto wasn't dead, I felt a little regretful, but now, I felt nothing. This was good. I enjoyed the sight of his misery. He deserved to live like this, suffering, desperately paying for the sins he had committed. Makoto was still surprisingly strong. Even in this condition, he didn't lose his sanity. He gritted his teeth and stared at me with eyes full of terror. I had never seen such a terrifying look. I almost wondered if he could move. Would he leap at me to bite me to death? I looked down at him from above and asked, "Makoto, do you regret it?" He sneered and pulled his lips into a twisted grin, glaring at me with hatred. "Regret?" Makoto spat, his voice hoarse but venomous. "I regret not killing you back then. George, you're nothing but scum from the bottom of society. You were born to be a worthless piece of trash. What does your bad life have to do with me? Why should I regret?" I replied. "Is that so? Seems like your life isn't too great either." I laughed, leaning closer to him. "I'll take your woman, and I'll live a good life with her. You don't need to worry about her anymore." Makoto paused for a moment before going into a frenzy, his screams wild and desperate like a beast in its death throes. His throat became hoarse quickly, gasping for breath, the sound grating like nails scraping on a blackboard. "George, you won't die a good death. You bastard. You deserve to die, George." I turned and walked out. Even now, Makoto still didn't think he had done anything wrong, but that didn't matter. I didn't need his repentance. I wouldn't forgive him. Is there a God in this world? I don't know. But if there is no divine punishment for his sins, then I'll make sure he gets punished myself. I raised my hand, and sunlight filtered through my fingers, landing on my face and cutting off the damp, dark shadows behind me. The rainy season when I was 17, now, finally, the sky was clear. Chapter 11. The Liu family must have been preparing to sever ties with the Ito family in advance. The recent scandal surrounding the Ito family did affect the Liu family to some extent, but the impact wasn't severe. Since Willow handed over those documents to me, she's never contacted me again. She completely disappeared from my life, and we have no further connection. Everything felt like a dream, now that I've woken up. She has left not a trace behind, except for fishing. I developed a habit of fishing, going whenever I had nothing else to do. When I'm fishing, I can calm down completely, and my chaotic thoughts gradually settle. I still liked going to the pond where Willow and I used to go, but this time, I unexpectedly saw a familiar figure. Willow was there. My feelings were complicated. I didn't know whether to approach her, but she didn't seem to notice me at all, her gaze fixed on the bobber without moving. I shook my head and couldn't help but laugh at myself. Sitting down at a distance from her, what was I even thinking? After all the lies I told her, the fact that she was still willing to help me was already her last act of kindness. How could I expect this girl, whom I had hurt so much, to still like me? Today, the fish weren't biting well, and I was a mess inside, lost in thought. I sat there for ages without a catch. Just as I was thinking of making one last cast before leaving, the next second, the hook caught Willow's skirt. We looked at each other, both feeling extremely awkward. I quickly walked over to reel in the lure and free the hook, but in the process, I accidentally lifted the hem of her skirt slightly, revealing a section of her pale leg. Willow coldly said, "George, using the same trick twice isn't interesting." She untangled the hook and turned to leave. I grabbed her and pulled her back. She tried to push me away, but I refused to let go. The two of us lost our balance and fell to the ground. Willow glared up at me, biting her lip in annoyance. "What are you doing? Let go." I firmly shook my head and refused. "Not a chance, Willow. I have to say something." She looked at me with hatred in her eyes, but after a long pause, she suddenly turned her head away, her body tensing for a moment before relaxing as if all the tension had drained away. It was the first time I heard her curse. She muttered, "Bastard." I sighed, rolled up my sleeves and continued. "Makoto burned me with hot water in middle school, put out his cigarette on my skin, took photos of me, and caused my grandmother's tragic death. I hated him so much, and I never stopped wanting to get revenge. After that, I hesitated. You can't forgive me, you can curse me, but I really like you. I've never lied to you about that." When Willow saw the scars on my body, tears filled her eyes. She gently traced her fingers over the scars on my arm and sighed as if giving up. "You always do this to me. You always pull this move. You know I'm worried about you, so you make me see this. I'm really so angry. You liar. You think I'm easy to fool, tricking me over and over again." I lowered my head, cupping her face in my hands and asking, "Then, will you forgive me?" The wind under the setting sun rustled the leaves, and the distant mountains parted to reveal a pale, white moon. She stood on tiptoe and kissed my lips. She whispered, "I give in, but if you're going to lie again, make sure it's for a lifetime." Not far away, a fish bit the hook, but no one was holding the rod. The fish quickly finished the bait and escaped. I smiled. It didn't matter, because the biggest catch, the one I really wanted, had already been landed.